Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the New American Media Podcast, hosted by yours truly, Greg Gala. And today we have a very special guest coming on. And I wanted her on because South Asian weddings in South Asian culture and in Asian culture in general, weddings are what Bollywood is centered around, the film industry, the all types of other industries, catering, clothing. And as many of you know that have been to Indian weddings or South Asian weddings, no, it is a multi-day event, 5 to 7 days, sometimes even longer. We had to have someone on that started as an entrepreneur and now has grown to becoming one of the largest wedding and event planners today in North America, definitely in the Southeast. I'd like for you all to welcome my friend and guest today of the pod, Nirjary Desai, and her company, Kiss 3 Events.
Hi, how are ya?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fabulous.
So we wanted you on to kind of talk about your background, your story of how you and your parents and your family immigrated to the United States, and kind of what that gave you to become the person you are today. So I want you to start a little bit about when was the first time you came to the United States? How did that come about? And just a little bit about that.
So my family and I immigrated to the U.S. From South Africa. I was born and raised in Zambia, and we moved to Botswana and then to Joburg and England, and then ended up in Pennsylvania. And then my parents, my mom has a cousin, lives in South Carolina, so we moved to Beaufort, South Carolina, where they got into the hotel business. So I was about 7, 8 years old when we came to the U.S. I think for me, it was a completely different change, than what we were doing there. Because in Africa, we were all in private school. We were kind of like expats, and my father was a chemical engineer, just living. It was a very different lifestyle there. And then you come to the U.S. with this American dream that our families have had, and you have to completely transition and completely learn a new way of life, almost learn a new way to be, and also communication and all of that. So yeah, that's kind of our story, where it's that whole American dream, I think, that our parents had to want to move to America and have a better life for their kids and their family, and just kind of really build a future and a life here and more advancement, not hold back, and truly with that mentality of it's the land of opportunity, So I think that's kind of what sparked a lot of my own entrepreneurial journey, where, I was set out to become a doctor. I wanted to be a pediatrician, and I was doing pediatric cancer research, and that was kind of my direction until I was like, this isn't for me. I need to go into business, and my family's in business, and kind of really changed my path in college, and, majored in international business and hospitality. At that time, I was working for American Airlines as well. So, having that global outreach still and that upbringing was really important to me, because, after finishing undergrad and everything here, I moved back to England to pursue my MBA, where I got to see a very different lifestyle, kind of like the whole world was there. And that's who I was engaging with and going to school with, and then things like that. So, yeah.
And I could tell the whole doctor thing I think every Indian parent wants their kids to be doctors. I was pre-med till I realized I went and worked in a hospital for like a couple of weeks, a month, and I said, "This is not for me. I can't even stand the sight of blood." That's when I became a business major myself. But
Yeah,
that's super
I
cool.
don't think it was more so the sight of blood. I think it was just more so like for me, like I was stuck in a lab. And I'm a very social and a people person. So for me, I was like, this isn't fueling me where I'm engaging and connecting with other human beings. I'm like, I don't want to just look at like cadavers and just only people in a lab at the moment. So I think it was just different.
And let's not forget, I'm pretty sure the first time I've met you was at some of the greatest parties that you were throwing back in college, right? So
Yeah.
this probably gets into how you got into the South Asian wedding industry, the event planning industry, and that kind of stuff, because you definitely had a knack for it in college, organizing events, all the ice formals, those events. You had done a bunch of those things. And I think that segues perfectly into when you were in London. Is that when you came up with the idea for the company?
So when I was in London, I was studying, I was doing my MBA in international marketing and brand management. So, I was basically getting pulled into, I was working and interning with Saatchi and Saatchi there and several other like marketing firms. And one of the things was a lot of like on shoot production days, a lot of hair and makeup artists and people weren't showing up. So it was just kind of like, okay, well, how can I just be versatile and, step in and do whatever? And just from like planning and working events, you just learn that you got to roll your sleeves up and step in and do whatever it takes to make it happen. So therefore, that's kind of where it all played out. And when I moved back to the US, I was working for Starwood Hotels and Resorts and doing marketing and brand management and sales. And I was getting pulled into all of I want to say about 15 years ago, being Indian and South Asians really started spending a lot more money at full service properties. So they were dabbling into that or they started investing into those properties as well. So a lot of these hotels wanted to pursue Asian business, but they didn't understand how to close that market, and how to win that piece of business. So I remember it was like, the NASABA, the National South Asian Bar Association.
The one in Georgia, right? Or is it the national one?
Yeah, it's the national one. So they were doing a meeting and an event in Atlanta, and pretty much like they came to one of the Starwood properties, and our team was like, Nirjary, you're Indian, you get this, like help us close this and all of this. And, I started getting really pulled into a lot of like the groups that were coming in to kind of explain to them what's important to the South Asian client when it comes to the events, the food, the culinary experience, just overall in general. When you are putting the event together. And so, that's kind of how that part of it started. But the whole time I was working my corporate job, like, my friends were getting married. So they're all pulling me in. They're like, you're really good at this. Like, come help us. Like, we just want you to like, help us get this streamlined and everything. And then, we're so used to like, in the Indian culture and the South Asian culture, we were so used to growing up where events were at community centers or the temple or whatever. And like the aunties and uncles and the people in the community were the ones that were helping execute these. There would be like a committee of people that'll do the food and the committee of people that'll do the decor and the committee that'll be like in charge of the entertainment and so on and so forth. So the whole concept of an event planner was very foreign to our community.
100%.
And I kind of used that more so as an educating point because, I speak Gujarati and Hindi and I understand all the different regions of India and the customs and the traditions that go along with it. So it was great because I was like, there needs to be a big liaison, because there was a major language barrier and an understanding between the end client and, you know, the customer and the business. And there needed to be a liaison that could basically have the client's back, but also work with the venue and the execution team very closely to deliver a very flawless event.
Right.
So that's kind of how it kind of came into play, you know. And I remember I was just sitting there one day. I'm like, all right, everyone's telling me to do this, and, you know, like, how am I going to brand this business, and so on and so forth. And I remember one of my marketing professors used to always say, in anything and everything, use the KISS principle, which is keep it simple and stupid. And it completely stuck with me. So that's how KISS Cubed was born. You know, it's like keeping it simple, sophisticated, stylish. Those are the types of clients we have. Those are the types of approaches we have when it comes to marketing and when it comes to our approach to selling to our client. But those are the types of clients we have. You know, we have a simple client, we have a sophisticated client, and we have someone that's just fully stylish, over the top, you know, and that goes with the types of events. Yeah.
And we all know that Indian culture in general, or South Asian culture, because of Bollywood, everything is based around this opulent wedding. Women, girls especially. So it's like the biggest thing in a family's life. Your parents are always telling you, when are you getting married? Who are you getting married to? When are you getting married? That kind of stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, like, our culture, the South Asian culture, you know, like we say, like, even like Bollywood runs on one storyline. It's a love triangle, you know? So, and as from the time that a family has a daughter or a son, the thing they start worrying about from the day that child is born is their wedding or this event. And, you know, it's like,
100%.
it's like family, you know, Indian families or South Asian families, it's like their reputation on the type of wedding that they throw, or what sort of like events they put on for their child, or, you know, whether if it's a daughter or a son getting married, so on and so forth. So, you know, like, all of that is so, it's ingrained in our culture, you know. And I think, like, the other thing is also, like, now over the past year, since the pandemic has been going on, I think people are starting to also take a different step and approach to weddings. You know, weddings are becoming more intimate. They are becoming more sentimental, where it's not necessarily this huge convention, even though people are ready to get back and ready to, you know, put on the large celebrations and everything like that.
Yeah, no. Tell me, how has the last year been for you, as it has for most people in your space? It's probably been like kind of a crazy time, you know? Talk a little bit about that.
So the last year has been really interesting. I think, like, for me personally, you know, I spent the last year not focusing on the fact that we weren't working events. I think it was a really nice break. I think it also helped me focus on working on some passion projects of mine, which was educating and elevating and inspiring the event industry to kind of really up their game. So we started really focusing and teaching people about building a better business when it came to, you know, their event business and everything like that. Obviously, last year had its own challenges, you know, I think emotionally and mentally for everybody, because you go from, like, being extremely, extremely busy and constantly traveling. I mean, I was scheduled to be, you know, all over the world last year because our events were global. And you know, that was something that was kind of hard, because we had to all kind of confine and sit down and reevaluate ourselves in just our business and our purpose and all of that, you know. So that was an interesting challenge, but I think it was necessary for everybody. You know, I think our industry over the years has become just like a very, the borders were just open. I guess I'd like to say that, like, it was just an easy point of entry and an easy point of exit. So, you know, I think a lot of people who didn't want to provide a certain level of service or were in it for the wrong reasons has started kind of, like, you know, making their way out of the industry. I think it also taught people, we focused on teaching people more about like transparency, not using the whole used car salesman, focus on transparency and educating your customer and your vendors as far as like everything is concerned when it comes to their events, and be honest, hey, the reality is that right now, you can't have your dream wedding in Italy, or you can't have your dream wedding in Rajasthan in India, or, because we do corporate events as well. So it's also just kind of like pivoting to like the whole virtual space, or let's start planning future things, that are like a year down the road, a year and a half down the road. But so I've really been focusing on like a lot of great content for the industry that's more educational.
Weddings are coming back. I was at a wedding earlier this month. I've got about 6 of them coming up this summer. It's definitely the word I use instead of hot girl summer. It is dad bod summer coming out with all these Indian weddings, But
it's going to be crazy.
He's going to be super booked right now, right?
We are still dealing with 2020 reschedules. We are. In all honesty, because like I said, all of our clients were international. They were planning international celebrations, and they didn't want to forego that. So it's okay, and we're getting new leads and new inquiries coming in, new bookings and everything like that. So we're focusing on servicing the clients that were here with us first, and getting them kind of checked off, and onto their happily ever after. And then working with new clients and really being honest with them, saying, hey, we ideally would like for your events to be June, July onwards of next year, because we still have to, we still want to service everyone, because at this point, like, we will have been working with people for over 3 years,
Wow, yeah, because it takes a lot, right? To plan it months out in advance.
I mean, and especially international productions take a good 12 to 14 months to plan, so you can say we've been working with clients since probably like July, August of 2019. And I mean, if you think about it, we're already looking into 2022.
Wow. What would you say is kind of some of the hardest things, adversity, things that you've had to overcome that cause you sometimes to think, hey, maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe I should just go get a job. Screw it. I'm just going to stop. But then you kind of chugged through and got it done.
I think, it's like anything, like we have challenges. Like last year was a major challenge, we all went through it. And I think like everyone had their own emotional roller coasters and challenges. And I think like there's been a lot of times that I've wanted to give up, right? But I didn't, because I knew that I had an obligation to my client. I had an obligation to my business. I had an obligation to my employees and my staff and the people that I was giving work to. And I think what's kept me going during the pandemic is knowing like, we grew up in the hotel hospitality industry, and I work with a lot of amazing hotels and venues globally, and knowing that all of these people were furloughed, So I kind of made it my mission that whatever event we do and however long people are going to be furloughed, I'm going to staff my team based on furloughed staff. At least I can give back to my hotel and hospitality community from that way. So fueling that energy in a different way, knowing that I can do something positive with what I still have on my plate. Because there's, the thing is, it's like, it's so easy to give up. The answer is quitting is the easy answer. It honestly is. But making things happen and making it better and making it more sustainable, that's where, your true leadership and your true dedication and passion shine. And I think that's what's really important in anything you do.
That's awesome. That's very good. Would you have advice for any young entrepreneur, whether they're in high school, college. So I've got like my little cousin, Nima. She is a freshman at NC State, right? And I can't remember who she was working for, but she has done like weddings and events and that kind of stuff. And she kind of really wants to get into it. What would you tell someone like a South Asian girl, woman like her, that's 16, 17, 18, 19 years old that may want to get into this industry, or any other woman, man, whoever of a young age that would want to do it?
I would say be passionate about service. This industry is all about serving others, and it's so service driven that if you do not have the passion to serve, you will not be successful in this industry. That is number one and key. The other thing is, get a hospitality degree and get a business degree. The hospitality degree is going to put you forward when it comes to learning just in general, the industry, what happens, the scope, all of that. And when you get into it, and if your goal is to eventually work for yourself, but, you may want to do this from like a brand side where you may want to work in it from a venue perspective, or like a Marriott, a Starwood, a Hilton, because there's a lot of ways to do events from that perspective as well, or like work for an ACBB or like a city, so on and so forth. But the number one thing is, if you do not have the passion to serve others, then that is what's going to set you apart, and I think hustling and proving yourself, is the key. You're not going to learn everything in 1 year by working for someone. It takes 5-10 years to learn, and learn it well. The other thing is, don't just job jump. I think that's a big thing. I would really tell people that are really trying to get into the workforce as well and get into this. Your growth is going to be determined on how dedicated and how patient you are going to be and willing to learn. If you feel like, I've worked for someone for a month or two, I should get a raise. Just think about it. Like, when we started working, we didn't get raises for like a year from our bosses or whatever. And, and I think like today's generation thinks that, I've conquered it all in 3 months, I deserve a raise. No, that's what you think you deserve a raise, but there's still a lot more learning, and there's still a lot more you have to perfect, and I think that's a big thing, right? Like, people not realizing that part of it.
I love that. That's the Indian auntie in you coming out right there, girl.
Listen, the Indian auntie does come out. Think about it. Like, our parents, and they had high expectations, but they had those for a reason, because they wanted to set us up for success. And I think like in this day and age, I think it's so important to, I'm very appreciative of that mentality and that upbringing, because that's what's made me successful today. And that's what's made me dedicated. And that's what's made me not give up. I've had to find a silver lining even in tough times. Last year I kept my staff on board before I paid myself, because I knew that it was important for me that I have a good team, that I have a good team when things do open back up. Because, it is going to be crazy and things are going to be balls to the walls, but I don't want to deal with a team that is not, seasoned and that doesn't care about service,
No, 100%. The quality you put out is based on the character of your people. And exactly. One of the things that you've talked about here today is that you really want the character of your people, your staff, to be an emulation of yourself.
Absolutely. I tell my clients all the time, I said, if I don't take care of my team, they don't take care of you. It's a trickle down effect. So therefore, sure, you're wondering why costs are high. And I think that's the other thing is since the pandemic as well, in our industry, costs have gone up. Cost of labor's gone up, cost of raw material goods. You're probably seeing it in the hotel business, It's so hard to find good staff, just in housekeeping, front desk, front of the house, back of the house. So I think just knowing that part of it as well. Like, it's important that, me being a leader in my space and have been doing this for a long time, I need to educate my client as well, so I set my client up for success, but also so they appreciate, and my staff appreciates it as well, that I'm advocating for why they should be getting paid what they're getting paid.
100%. That's great. So shifting on a lighter note, I'll tell you this story, kind of about my wedding when we got married, 2010. So my parents are from Mumbai, and they have all their friends there, and a lot of the newest trends all come out there. And she had gone to a wedding, like I would say 2006, 2007-ish time frame. And the new thing was doing all of the stations, right? With all different types of food. And so we brought that to our wedding, and one of the stations was supposed to be like a bond station. Mm-hmm. But the guy who was going to make the bond didn't show up. So you know what my mom did? She took all the things for the bond, put them out on a table all by itself, along with the help of the person that was helping do the wedding stuff. And she put it all out there. And then everybody made their own. And to this day, people come to my mom and say, that was an ingenious idea, Auntie. We have used that for weddings moving forward, And this was because she didn't have the person show up. So now it's like a make your own bond station, the same way now I think you can do pani puri, a lot of the other things. And she kind of fell into that idea. My mom's always been really good at this. And she basically did our whole wedding. She even picked out Mona's outfit. And Mona was really cool with that.
That's amazing.
It was. So give me an example where you're at an event or a wedding or, even a corporate event where you had something that happened and then what you did to make the best out of it. Like a funny story, blooper, whatever.
Challenges constantly come up. Every event is so different, and I think like the number one thing is it's like, God, I can't even pinpoint because there's been so many different things, that it's just kind of like, oh, okay. This is new, because every event is so different. And especially because we're in different destinations. So it's like, we have to make it happen. We have to make it happen in that destination and figure it out. So I think number one thing is it's really just like rolling with the punches and setting your client up also for success. It's like telling our clients as well, hey, just so you know, we are doing this in another place in the world. So not everything is going to be how it is in your backyard. Because, there isn't a Patel Brothers down the road for me to run to or something to go pick up some bond or, whatever else you may need. So, if you don't come with it, it's not happening. And if it gets lost or taken away at customs, it's not happening, So
well, that's like, the Hard Rock in Cancun, they explicitly market to South Asians for weddings. I've probably been to 3 Indian weddings at that Hard Rock.
Nice. Yeah, I think I had a challenge for my own wedding. I got married in Mexico and I
want to hear this.
I got married in Los Cabos, and it was like, we had our own caterer, chef, and everything that we brought in, and certain things at customs upon arrival got taken. So luckily we had people come in like, a few days later and stuff. So we told 5 different people to bring the same stuff. And I'm like, whoever gets through with the quantity we need is great, So I think it was just like one of those things. I mean, it was just lentils. It wasn't anything like, we weren't trying to like bring in anything that would like harm anybody or anything like that. But it was just kind of like, it was like lentils and stuff like that for.
That's awesome. You were doing opposite smuggling from the U.S. to Mexico.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it smuggling, but you know what I'm saying. But like it's just like the challenges of like, oh shit, like what are we gonna do? Like that's for like this vidhi or this puja, and like we're not gonna have darbat or whatever, and it's like, and my dad was like, oh no, I need that, I'm gonna make sure that dar gets here or whatever, so like we had to call like an uncle, a cousin, and some friends and some vendors that were coming in, and we're like, whoever brings it in and whatever's left over, we're leaving it for the resort.
That's awesome. What was probably one of the coolest events you've ever done?
Gosh, we've done so many cool events. We've done a beautiful one in Salt Lake City, Utah, where the couple, their farewell was in a hot air balloon, which was really cool. We did one for Amazon. It was a full women's kind of women in technology conference. It was in Orlando. It was beautiful. It was like set at like similar to like the London Eye, but there's one in Orlando, and it was set at the bottom of that, which was really cool. And then, my own wedding was a lot of fun to plan because, we did like a full yacht party and everything like that. And then we just did one of our biggest productions right now during a pandemic back in March, and it went off without a hitch. Even though we had to add more layers to planning and everything like that. So, I think it's like over the years, it just has tested me to get creative, but stay on my toes, and also be empathetic and understand every side of it, understand my client side of it, understand the vendor side of it, understand everybody's side of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Would you say that being a new American immigrant to this country, one of the main things, I was listening to another podcast the other day, and they said one of the differences between the United States and people who come here compared to other countries is that you come here by choice, right? That drive, that intuition, all of that, the drive and the achievement to succeed. Do you think that's something that your mother and father had that was passed down to you, and kind of what was something that like your mother or father taught you maybe when you were younger that you take to heart today?
Oh, I think that adversity is going to be, you never know when you're going to run into it, right? And I think like one of the things that my parents have taught and focused on teaching us is like, don't define success based on money. Define success based on, were you a good person today? Did you help somebody today? Did you make a difference? And what impact do you want to leave? That's what you should be defining success based on, right? Because money's here today, it's gone tomorrow. It's not about that. And I think like our parents brought us here obviously monetarily to be successful as well, but to be more well-rounded and more to give us more access to the best things in the world, the first things in the world, the first technology, innovation, so on and so forth. So I think like that's really important. And I think the other thing that our parents have all taught us is like, again, being of service to others. Like, like the hospitality when we were young and people came to our house, like if guests came in our house, we better be there ready with a tray of water and giving it to them. And by the time they sit down, that glass is empty, you better be taking it. You better have cha ready, and so on and so forth. Kind of like, I run my business in that way as well. It's like, you got to take care of these people. It doesn't matter if it's your client. It doesn't matter if it's your staff, but you also have to teach everyone that that at the end of the day, we are human beings serving human beings. It doesn't matter if you're an immigrant or if you're a non-immigrant. That is what our purpose here is. And that is what we have to focus on fulfilling every single day.
I love it. Love the energy. Thank you, Nirjary. This has been an amazing episode here. Do you want to plug anything for any of your stuff? Go ahead.
I mean, if anybody's looking for like an event marketing agency or, for a luxury destination event, feel free, reach out to us at Kiss Cubed Events, and that's Kiss with one S, KISCUBED events. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, through our website and everything, or feel free and reach out to me personally as well, and I would be happy to serve you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to the show today. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.